After sleeping away in my sarcophagus for 8 months, what is it that brings me back? My old flame. Destiny 2. And to be true, ever since the last time I made a Destiny video, things have changed. I realized something. That no matter how much I say I'm gonna quit, it's just not gonna happen. Because there really is nothing else like Destiny out there. There's nothing that scratches that itch that only Destiny can do. Though things aren't looking great for us Destiny fans. I know. The Destiny community gets a bad rep for being the ones that probably hate their game the most. I'm not gonna lie, that's probably true. If you had asked me a year ago, around the time of Lightfall, I would have said, yeah, I'm hating for hating's sake. I'm preying on their downfall. Because believe me, I have done my fair share of hating on Destiny. At the end of the day, though, I can't walk away. I've come to the realization that, yeah, I have problems with the game. Sure, it will never be perfect, but no game ever is. And there's no other game that I've played for this long and tried this hard to get my friends in on this pyramid scheme. At this point, what I want for Destiny is for it to succeed. I want it to be better than it was. With the introduction of the Edge of Fate, I thought we had some good times ahead of us. Sure, the ball is stupid, fair enough. Maybe not totally enough content, fair enough. But the new systems they were adding, and what originally seemed like a way for newer players to get better acclimated to the game, were on the horizon. Let's just say, I hate to be told, I told you so. Despite the DLC itself honestly not being that bad, even if it does lack enough content, the update that came with it is probably one of the most catastrophic updates I've seen in a really long time. Don't worry though, as for this video, I didn't just come to complain. I came to construct as well. I am not just here to shit all over the update, because like I said, I want Destiny to do well. I am going to be doing a bit of complaining, because what kind of Destiny player would I be if I didn't complain? But I'm also going to be providing what I feel like are solutions, whether it be short-term or long-term, to make this game feel better. Because the best way to describe what the Edge of Fate has done to Destiny is it made it feel small. I know, my previous videos on Destiny are not helping me beat the hater allegations. And what else can you expect from an average Destiny player? Despite my woeful nature on this update, I think it is still salvageable. But I think the most glaring issue is Bungie's insistence on the portal being the main content area, actively discouraging people from playing other activities. They said if it ain't in the portal, you shan't play it. The reason I say this is because currently they do not allow for any Armor 3.0, tiered weapons, or pinnacle gear to be earned outside of the portal, which for new and old players makes it so those are the only worthwhile activities to play, actively disincentivizing people to play outside the portal. This is further shown how they didn't plan to add any more destinations to the destination tab, and even going out of their way to desaturate it, trying to claim that people didn't know the difference between the two. Alright. Then resetting people's Guardian ranks and making it so the only way you can level up your Guardian ranks is by doing portal activities. It is frustratingly clear that they want to force people to use the portal and only the portal. The iconic screen that's been in Destiny since before it even came out. How this is fixed, though, is relatively easy, at least to start, which is to revert the removal of pinnacle rotators in the Destinations tab, add Kepler to the Destinations tab, and remove the desaturation. I mean, what are we doing here? This is a bandage fix, but something that can at least work for the foreseeable future. The whole philosophy on the portal system, it just needs to change and fit how it was originally promoted to us, which is to be complementary to the Destinations tab. Let me say that again. Complementary complementary, not a replacement. Just like we were originally told, it should be there for quick activity access and to show new players good places to go for viable loot. That's it. This is literally a 99% issue. I don't know a single person who wants to get rid of the destinations tab, make it obsolete. So how do we fix this issue beyond that? Because like I said, the destination tab is Destiny. Can it get cluttered and a little hard to find stuff? Yes, that's where the portal comes in. Adding things like quick access to Vanguard ops, rotating pinnacle activities, and anything dropping desirable loot is another fix for this. If you want to keep what's already in there, that's fine as well, but make it accessible outside of the portal. Because even though it seems like they don't want to use the destinations tab because it's too cluttered and hard to find stuff, there becomes a later problem with the portal where, yes, they will be adding stuff, but they'll also be removing stuff. If they didn't, then it would just get as cluttered as the destinations tab supposedly is, and will eventually lead to more sunsetting. More on that later. An even bigger change, though, that Bungie probably won't want to do is to add Armor 3.0 with set bonuses to all content outside of the portal. But at the very least, Vanguard Ops, I'm being a little silly here, but Gambit, sure, Crucible, if for some reason you're a masochist, Dungeons and Raids. We also need to bring back Grandmaster Nightfalls. I have no idea why they removed this, other than to just buffer the portal with some shittier things to do. If they want to keep conquests, that's fine. But keep Grandmaster Nightfalls, another staple that's been in the game for years. It was a great piece of endgame content that was different from a master raid or dungeon. With these relatively minor changes, you can vastly open up the game. It allows for more player freedom and encourages, honestly, a regrind, because if they wanted you to have to regrind gear for new versions, I would be down for that. That's basically what we did with Armor 2.0. The Destiny team said that they're going to be adding dungeon encounters, which is not good enough. So hopefully they start to take that a different direction, but we'll just have to see. But this also runs into another problem that makes the game feel small. To my knowledge, there are not many, if any, Destiny players whose favorite thing is to grind their light level. I know, call me a fake fan all you want, but people like to grind for weapons and armor? I know. Who would have thought in a looter shooter, the most enjoyable thing would be the loot? Like the weapons and armor, and how you can combine them to make a great build. What is not fun is repeating the same activity over and over and over and over for an arbitrary number that gets negated by power disabled activities or modifiers that bring your power down, all for a little bit more damage. Personally, I think grinding power with new expansions was kind of fun. It wasn't a big thing, but what was different about it was not the main grind of the game. It was something you did alongside with the campaign. Then when you were done, you were pretty much at the power cap. Sure, there was the seasonal artifact. It didn't make that much of a difference in leveling it up, and it was something you naturally did over time, more so than now, where it is a necessary thing to survive different activities, but also to get loot, which we'll talk about later. It limits you to only playing pinnacle activities, or activities that drop light higher than before. So for an example of this, if you want to play Salvation's Edge, literally the newest raid as of like a month ago, right? You could even run it on Master, and you will not get gear that is above 200. You playing that activity will not give you XP that will raise your power level. It is useless to run that or any content outside of the portal if you want to level up your light level, which at this point is about half the grind, and where it takes almost 100 hours to get to like 350 or 400 or something like that. Oh yeah, and then it resets in a few months. When Renegades comes out, you're gonna have to do that all over again. So everything you just did, all that grinding, ends up being for nothing. Part of why I've played and grinded Destiny for so long is because I know my stuff that I have will matter until it shuts down, or at the very least for the next few years. To put hundreds of hours in and it all be wiped away in a few months is such a slap to the face. I know Peter and Bungie are stuck on Marathon, but Bungie is not an extraction shooter. There should not be account wipes unless you're cheating. Having some kind of power creep is fine. I thought this seasonal artifact having your power was fine. It didn't mean that much. This light level grind, it's how pertinent and required it is to do things to even get the chance at getting better gear. Like my brother, they did world's first contest mode, and the teams that weren't cheating, and I'm sure the teams that were cheating, all got like tier 1 to 2 loot. That is insulting, but they need to not reset the light level. If we're gonna stay at 200, or if we're just gonna let people go to, I think it's 500 you can get to after Ash and Iron comes out, keep it that way. Do not reset it. If you want to keep us at 500 forever, that's fine, I guess. But when you're putting the game in these constant 6-month cycles where it's like, in 6 months, your new gear, featured gear, your light level, all goes back to being meaningless. It gets soft sunset. That makes the game feel so much smaller and so much worse. Whereas before you were thinking in years, this gear I get is going to be good for years. Now it's going to be, well, this gear will be good, I guess, for a few months. And then Bungie said, well, we don't want you to use that anymore. So we're going to force this new stuff onto you. Which goes to the next problem that makes Destiny feel small, which is this new gear system. When I first heard about the new tier system, I actually thought it sounded kind of interesting, because originally I was under the impression that these new systems were going to go into the older activities, and then the new gear that came with Edge of Fate was just going to have these new / featured gear bonuses, which I didn't really care for either at the time, but now it's worse. After having some time with this system and seeing how not only did they make it so it's absurdly hard to get, there's only a few options you can even get. Anything that was added with the Edge of Fate, that's the only thing with the set bonuses, with Armor 3.0 archetypes, or the tier system. I mean, the way to get tier 5 loot is extremely tedious and ridiculous. Not only do you have to level up your light level to like 350 or 400 or something absurd like that, which again takes around 100 hours to even get around there, and that's being optimal. You then, on top of that, have to add a bunch of modifiers to even get the chance of having high tier loot drop. And most of the time what those modifiers do is set your power back down to what you would have been if you didn't even grind. Or in the case of the raid, you have to do the raid to then do the raid again, but with a multiplier on it, and then do the raid again with another multiplier and some other multipliers, and then do the raid again to get some more multipliers, to then do the raid again. And then at that point, you might get tier 5 loot. This system is just so needlessly complicated, repetitive, and limiting on what you can play and how you play it. Because again, going back to the light level system, you have to do it. You have to grind that arbitrary number that will go away in 6 months. On top of that, the enhancements that the new gear that you grinded for hours to get is gone in 6 months. There's going to be some other new gear that Bungie's going to try to incentivize you, or in my opinion, disincentivize you from getting the other gear in 6 months. Again though, on top of that, the process is made so much more painful by the fact that they ruined difficulty and the power fantasy. Right now, you can have amazing gear, and guess what? Shit's just not gonna die. I know they say they're glitched, but right now the abilities don't charge properly. They charge almost like you're playing D2 vanilla. I've seen clips of people doing a mythic boss, and you have to sit in a corner to just chip away at it for like 20 minutes. That's just not fun. Bungie is asking people to put the time and the work in just so they can take it away from you and make the experience as unpleasant as possible. Let's say the tier system dropped. Say you did activities and it was random what tier it would drop, or you do master activities and it would have a higher chance of dropping that way. There is still a problem with the tier system, which I think can somewhat be remedied, but the problem is the way it works now. It's basically how gear worked in both Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 for a while, where you had common, rare, uncommon, legendary, exotic. But now you have that system, and you also have the tier system, which basically makes you delete anything that's a lower tier. Because the higher tier it is, the more enhanced stats it'll have, the more enhanced perks it'll have. Sometimes, apparently, in tier 5, you can get enhanced intrinsic traits, you can get enhanced barrels. It makes anything that's a lower tier useless. It makes you want to throw it away. The only way I can think to remedy this is to make it in some way that higher tier activities have a better chance to drop higher tier loot, but normal activities like Desert Perpetual on normal, you still have the chance to get it. It'll be lower, but you still have the chance to get it. And then also making it so you can enhance your tiers somehow, like level up your tiers. Don't make it easy, but as of right now, the amount of work you have to put in for the reward that you get is not worth it. And it again limits you on how you can play and what you want to play. You also have to remove the drops being from your light level. The entire problem of difficulty just blatantly disrespects people's time and limits the power fantasy of Destiny and what you would even want to play. Why the fuck would I punish myself with minus 50 power and have a terrible time for the chance to maybe get better gear? The other thing this does is, again, restricts your grind to a handful of activities. Because, again, they decided to not update any of the other gear pre-Edge of Fate. I think realistically, though, the best way to do this is to get rid of tiers from weapons. I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be the best thing to do. Because with armor, I think it can still work. Because at that point, it leans a lot more into the min-maxing side of MMOs, where you grind the really hard stuff to get that little bit extra. That's what people do on MMOs. But with weapons, it just feels so much more unnecessary and complicated, and frankly, it's just not fun. Things like giving people more player agency on what they can play, how they get their loot, expanding the new systems to encompass the other pieces of gear. These are all things that will make the game feel better and bigger by expanding what you can grind and how you do it. Again, player agency should be #1 priority. Even Bungie says so. Though out of all the things I gish-galloped about in this video, this is the most important thing. The most important thing that makes Destiny feel small. And that is its constant sunsetting. I've mentioned this a few times, but with the Edge of Fate update, Bungie attempted to try to slip another sunset of content, I guess, hoping nobody would care or notice. They didn't remove content necessarily. They just highly disincentivized anybody from doing any content outside of the portal. Guardian rank, light level, tiered systems, set bonuses, all inside the portal. So when you're doing Salvation's Edge or, I don't know, Prophecy or something like that, you're sitting there wondering, why am I even doing this? It's not in the new system. So just because you didn't take it out doesn't mean it's not sunsetting. I mean, besides the obvious issue of removing content, which is always bad in my opinion, it becomes blatantly obvious how little new content was added in the update and the DLC. That combined with, in my opinion, absolutely nothing between when the raid came out and Ash and Iron, this problem is even more magnified. What, in between that time you're going to add a bunch of activities that we've already done a million times with no new gear? Yeah, no, that's not new content. I'm sorry. Genuinely, this pisses me off so bad. The fact that they are double dipping on making content meaningless or removing it to repackage it later is insane. Like, we've already done this, all right? Nobody liked it then. Just because you don't technically remove it doesn't mean people are going to be like, wow, they added some gear that was already in the game to the portal system. I'm definitely going to want to grind for that, even though I already had it or I had a better place to grind it. I feel like I should not have to explain why sunsetting, soft or not, is bad, but just because I will. Last year, I started playing ESO, and sure, the game, it ain't perfect, but how expansive and open it is to be a new player is unlike any other game that I've played, for better and for worse, because as far as I can tell, every piece of content put out in the last 10 years is still there. Playing ESO, it is exciting to have so much to dive into. I felt I could eventually become up to date with the people that have been playing for years. It's expansive, which is exactly the problem with sunsetting, especially if you don't have enough content to replace it. Sure, you can run into the problem of bloat, but let's be honest, would you rather have too much to do, or would you rather have not enough to do? The only thing Bungie has used sunsetting for is to remove content and give it back to you later. Either worse or albeit just different. The only way to fix this, in my opinion, is to add back every destination, every raid, every strike, to revamp patrol zones and update all of the gear to the current system. Realistically, this is never going to happen. Even though they desperately need to update their social systems in Destiny because both the Final Shape and Edge of Fate removed the social aspects of patrol zones, everything you do now feels like you have to go out of your way to have an MMO experience, whereas before, you would just go out and find Guardians, you would see them in a patrol zone, link up with them, do something like Port of Oryx or Blind Wells, where even maybe a public event, but now it's just you and silence. What I do think is possible though, and will take a while to get, is to add back the campaigns from Destiny Vanilla to Forsaken, but put them back in a playlist similar to how current campaigns are, where you get a menu, you can pick the missions, and from there you can choose legendary or normal. Then you add a similar weekly mission activity to them like we had with recent campaigns. Even though this would take a lot of work, it would do so much for the game. It allows both new and returning players another place to grind gear, but most importantly, it would get people actually invested. One of the big problems with Destiny 2 and getting new people in it is you don't know where to start, because there is no starting area. Half of the game is gone. Literally, the only way to experience it is to either look up a Bife video explaining it, or watch the cutscenes on YouTube. Any MMO that I've tried has allowed you to either go up to the current DLC or experience, or start at the beginning and get yourself invested and go through everything that there is to offer. This gives people an incentive to stay because now they are invested. They have seen the beginning to the end, or at least Destiny 2 Vanilla story with the Red War to, I don't know, the final shape if you want to end there. Imagine if you were watching a show and they're just like, seasons 1 through 2 are gone, but you have 3, 4 you can do, and season 5 is starting. I would assume most people would not want to start that show. The campaigns, especially the recent campaigns, have also been a great teacher for mechanics. Again, it expands how you can play Destiny. If you want to do older missions for the weekly pinnacle things, or if you add exclusive gear to that playlist, those are things that encourage people to go and play them. It diversifies what you can play. It makes the game feel bigger. If this ever happens, which it probably won't, it won't happen for a long time, which honestly, I don't think Destiny has at this point. I think when you look at the player numbers and with the Edge of Fate releasing and the Raid releasing, I think people like myself, we want to play, but the game is just not giving us an incentive to play. Adding things, like I said, expand how you can play, how you spend your week in Destiny, and it makes your time feel respected. At the core of the problems with the Edge of Fate, it's player agency and respecting people's time. Two things that this update has essentially gotten rid of completely. These things make Destiny feel small, and if something doesn't change fast, I fear for Destiny's future.